guys, and welcome to another reading vlog. And this one I'm really excited about because it's gonna be a little bit different than the last few vlogs that I've done, because in this vlog I'm going to be doing a reread of one of my favorite books, like a book that I always say is one of my favorites of all time. And that book is Angela's Ashes by Frank Mccourt. If you guys remember from my June TBR, I picked out of my TBR jar to do a reread, and so I chose this one. And so I thought it would be really fun to vlog the experience because I'm curious if it's going to hold up for me. I have a feeling it's going to, but I haven't read this book. The first time I read this book, the first and only time I have read this book, was my senior year of high school. So that was about 18 years ago. And I just remember loving the writing because this is a memoir of Frank Mccourt's life growing up in Limerick, Ireland, with his siblings, his parents, and I believe his father was an alcoholic. They were very poor, and it's just kind of about what his childhood was like. And I remember being, heartbroken by parts of the story, but also finding it very humorous. He just kind of had that way of writing. And there are certain scenes from the book I remember also very vividly. But yeah, I don't know how it's gonna go, you guys. I mean, like I said, I have high hopes that I'm still going to love this book and that it's still going to go down as probably my favorite memoir that I've ever read. So yeah, I decided I would vlog the experience, take you guys on the journey with me, and we'll find out together if Angela's Ashes holds up. Hi, so it is the next day. I read the first chapter of Angela's Ashes yesterday, but I didn't check in last night because I was tired. But I am already loving the writing so much. I think I should probably say before I go too far into this vlog that there may be little bits of spoilers throughout this. So if you're worried about that, or like you've never read this and you want to, I don't know, you might want to steer clear. I'd hate to, shoo anyone away, but I also don't want to spoil things for people. So there may be mild spoilers throughout. So, okay. So the first chapter here just kind of introduces you to Frank. It starts right with how his parents met and how they got married and everything, and gives a little bit of background about them. And he is actually born in New York City and is the oldest of the Mccourt children. And so this first chapter, he is about 4 by the end of the chapter. And you already see in this first chapter how hard their life is. They are very poor. Their dad is an alcoholic, so unfortunately a lot of times his paycheck would just be completely gone, spent drinking at the bar. And his mother, was just very frustrated and upset about it. And they also experience a great loss right in this first chapter that really just puts his mother into a deep depression. And you just really feel for this family. And what got me the most, like emotionally, just in this first chapter, was that they're living in, I believe it's Brooklyn is where they live. And they live in an apartment complex. So there are a couple of other families that live in the complex. And there's also a grocery store really close nearby. And what just tugs at my heart, and anytime I see this or hear about this in stories, it just makes me want to cry. The kindness of these people, because they knew how much the Mccourts were struggling, and they would help them. They would, give the kids food. There was one family where they had a little girl, and so when the kids, he has a set of twin brothers that are younger than him and a younger brother. When the twins, when their diapers were basically rags, because this is also during the Great Depression, I should mention, his early childhood. So things are tight for everybody, but these people, you know, are trying to help this family. And so this one family, they have a little girl. She gives the twins some of her cloth diapers just to help them out. And then when Angela is in the depths of despair, they come and they feed the children, they feed her, and they just step in and just try to help. And I just loved that kindness that they had, especially during such a difficult time, the Great Depression. It was hard on everyone, and they still found ways to try to help. And then, of course, the grocery store owner would also give them food for nothing, or when his mother would go into the store to get eggs or something, he would say, "Oh, don't worry about it, just pay me back when you can," and those kinds of things. It just really just tugs at your heart. So luckily for them, they had people like that in their proximity, in their community, and so it just makes you really sad though. So, and again, you see kind of just that humor, and especially in this chapter because it's from when he's born until he's about 4. And so you're seeing the story through 4-year-old Frank's eyes. So there are a lot of things that he doesn't understand, things that the adults are saying that he doesn't understand, and especially everything going on with his mother. He doesn't quite grasp what it is. It's just mom is really sad, or mom is upset. And then, of course, the times when she's happy, it's like, oh, mom's happy and she's cooking again and things like that. So it's just really interesting to kind of see. And I'm sure that as the book progresses, as he ages, that narrative will change as he matures. But right now, there's definitely a sort of innocence to the story and to his thought processes. Yes. So, yeah, so far I'm really enjoying this reread. Hi, so I thought I'd give you another update. I'm on page 113 of Angela's Ashes, and I don't know if it's like my teenage self blocked it out or I just forgot in the almost 2 decades since I first read this book, but this book is so sad. It's so sad. The loss that this family experiences it's just so heartbreaking, and especially seeing it from Frank's perspective. He is a child, and so obviously he's going to see those things differently and experience those things differently, and yeah, it's a sad one. It's a sad one, guys. What I do like though is the ways in which the family tries to make their experience a little bit lighter. A big example in this section is they move back to Ireland, and they're living in Limerick, and they get this place that's it's like a 2-story, almost kind of, it's like a row of flats, but they're 2-story flats, and they didn't realize when they got the place, but in the winter months and the early spring, the lower floor floods. And so they didn't know that when they got the place, so they find out pretty quickly once winter hits that yeah, their house floods on the lower floor. And so what they do is they move upstairs for the winter. And the way that they kind of make light of it is his parents say, we'll act like, we're going on a vacation, like we're going to Italy. So from there on out, when they go upstairs for the winter months, he says, we're going to Italy. And then when, the waters go back down and they go back downstairs, he says, okay, now we're going back to Ireland. So it's kind of a cute, kind of innocent way that they deal with, a pretty difficult living situation. So I'm getting into the part now where he's starting to get introduced to religion too, because when he was younger and when they were living in New York, they didn't go to church or anything, and now though being back in Ireland, it's a very important part of their culture and everything. So, but Frank is just kind of confused by it all, and so that part is interesting to see how that goes for him. So yeah, you're definitely starting to see, because I think I mentioned this before, that the narrative changes as Frank ages. So, in the start of the book, he's very, very young. So the narration is different. It's from like a 3-year-old, 4-year-old's perspective, and now he's getting older. And so his perspective on life is changing, and the things he sees and notices, he's becoming more aware of his living situation and how it differs from other people and things like that. So yes, I am still very much loving this, very much. And yeah, but I did forget just how freaking depressing the story is. Hey guys, so I'm sitting on my back deck and I have been reading some more of Angela's Ashes. I am on page 216, so I'm past the halfway point, yay. And this section was interesting because he really starts to get into, not like directly, but you just notice it in the narrative, how even within impoverished areas, there is still sort of a hierarchy, and there are like levels, because for Frank and his family, they always have shoes, but they always are secondhand and falling apart, but they always have shoes on their feet. That's something his mom was always very adamant about. But he did have classmates that did not wear shoes, and to them that was like, oh, like we're poor, but we're not that poor. And so it was interesting. It kind of reminded me a little bit of To Kill a Mockingbird too, how kids start to become more aware of class usually within the school setting. They start to see differences. And you kind of saw that in this section with Frank and some of his classmates. And also, which is really sad to me, is how he kind of, throughout childhood, lost friends and classmates to various illnesses. Most of the time, it was consumption or tuberculosis. And the way he just was kind of like, yeah, so-and-so died, and you're just like, wow, because, me as a child, I don't recall ever losing a classmate at that age, at a young age like that. Because right now he's about 10. And the way he was just kind of like, this is normal, was kind of sad. So, and then the other thing I noticed in this section is he's starting to have a different sort of viewpoint about his dad, because his dad is an alcoholic. He often takes the dole money because he couldn't hold down a job, so they would get a check, and they called it the dole, and he would take it and go to the pub and drink it all away. And he did it quite often. And so he, as a young kid, knew that it upset his mom, and it would kind of put the whole house into an upheaval. But then as he gets older, he's starting to have kind of conflicting feelings about his dad, because he also has fond memories of him, of, waking up early in the morning, and his dad would always light the fire, make the tea, they'd read the paper together, and he would teach him songs and things like that, and at bedtime tell him stories, Irish stories, and things, about his heritage and his culture. And those parts of his dad he obviously really loved and cherished. But then there was that other side of him, the addiction side of things, that just complicated the relationship. So it was really interesting that he's starting to have more thought about that and about his dad, because up until this point he hasn't, I don't think, because he's young, hasn't had a full understanding, but now he's starting to become more aware of what exactly it is and why he does it and things like that. So yes, I am still loving this book very much, very, very much, and I can't wait to finish it soon, hopefully soon. I'm definitely taking my time with this. I thought I would be reading it a lot faster than I am, but I'm glad I'm taking my time and just kind of really settling into it and not rushing it too much. So hopefully I will finish it soon, and until then, I'll talk to you guys later. So I'm on page 243 of Angela's Ashes, and I have some thoughts because in this part of the book I'm starting to get very upset with Frank's whole family situation. As I've said before, his dad is an alcoholic, and it's just upsetting to me that his mother is just stuck in this horrible situation because she's married to a man who cannot hold down a job. He'll have a job for a couple weeks and then he gets fired because, he doesn't show up, or because he's drunk on the job or whatever. And he won't hold down, can't hold down a job, is basically the main reason for their poverty, is that he cannot keep a job. But she, because of this situation, this is like World War II era, and it's Ireland, so this time she could not divorce him. And she also could not go and get a job herself, because that was like frowned upon, to be a mother and a wife and to go work. But then she's married to a man who's not doing like the man's job, which is to go work and provide. So it's like, what is she supposed to do? And it's just frustrating. I'm frustrated for Angela, because what is she supposed to do? And there are certain people in the community and stuff that do help them and understand that, the situation they're in. But then, like, her own family who live nearby are just so mean. And they're so mean to the children. They're just not helpful. And I can understand them getting frustrated after a while, but like, that's your family, and I'm just frustrated for Frank and his family, because at some point it's like, what is this woman supposed to do? She can't go get a job herself. She even says, I'll go get a job, but then what am I gonna do with my kids? And then when she talks to her husband about her getting a job or something, he's like, oh, no, you can't do that. We would be the talk of the town. And it's like, we're already the talk of the town because you drink our money away and we're poor because you can't hold on to a job or whatever. So it's just like frustrating. So, and like I said, it also is like, it's really just sad to me that they have family nearby and they're just so like hostile towards them and just not nice, and that makes me sad. So this book is it's just making me feel all the emotions right now. Okay, so I'm in the home stretch. I have like 25 pages left of this book, but I was having a couple of thoughts, made a couple of connections, and I wanted to talk about them really quickly before I forgot. So basically it has to do with Frank's religion. He is growing up in Ireland. He is obviously brought up Catholic, and you see throughout his story, there are many times throughout this book that literally the church slams the door in his face, and it seems like every time he is supposed to have this like deep connection or this positive experience with his faith, it does not turn out that way. And so I find it really interesting, and it's something that I really want to hopefully find more information on, maybe like go back and look at interviews that he's done, or maybe he talks about that topic a little more, because he definitely does not have it doesn't seem like he has a very fond relationship with his faith, even though it was such an important part of his upbringing and such a big part. It definitely was something that I don't think he really connected with or valued or appreciated. So yeah, I find that very interesting, because I don't think that's the case for a lot of people. I mean, I think a lot of people who are religious and are deep, have deep love in their faith, it's gotten them through a lot of things, and they find a lot of comfort and solace in it, and he definitely has not. So that's interesting to me. So yes, I just wanted to get that out really quick before I forget. But yeah, I got like 25 pages left. I'm gonna turn the camera off, and I'm gonna finish this book. So it is the next day, and it is thunderstorming out, which is actually really nice because we haven't had rain in so long. So I'm like, yes, please rain. But I wanted to give you guys my final thoughts on Angela's Ashes because I did finish it last night. I was just too tired to kind of wrap things up. I was very sleepy. So, but I wanted to give you guys my final thoughts, and yeah, overall, I really enjoyed my reread of this book. The writing is it's kind of like down to earth, conversational. You kind of feel like you're sitting with Frank and he's telling you his story, but in different voices, because the narrative changes as he ages. So in the beginning of the book, he's like very young, he's like 3, and it goes all the way until he's 19. So, as he matures, so does his voice, so to speak. I especially liked the last section when he hits adolescence, because he is starting to, just explore life and question things. He's very interested in, and also very stressed out about working and making sure that he is, never poor again. And of course, also as a teenager, he is, very much becoming aware of his sexuality and all of that. He also experiences a love for the first time, and all of those sorts of things that you kind of do when you're a teenager. And so I really liked that last section. So overall, I really still love this book. Like I said, the writing is very good. It's just, I don't know. There's something about his voice that I just really love. The book does not have quotations like for, dialogue and stuff. I know that bothers some people, but That didn't bother me at all. And the biggest thing I think I take away from this is that reading it the second time, it to me this time around was way more depressing than it was funny. I remember reading it the first time in high school and just finding so much humor in it. And though I still did see humorous parts and there were things that made me chuckle and kind of things that people say, you know, throughout the book, funny bits of dialogue and things like that, I definitely overwhelmingly thought this book was very sad. So, especially because it is a true story, and just knowing that somebody grew up this way, it's just really sad. But I still loved it very, very much. The only thing is, there are a couple of loose ends as far as characters go. I won't say who, I'm trying not to be spoilery. But there are some people in Frank's life that at the end of the book you're not quite sure where they are or what happened to them. And that was a question I sort of had. Now I have the sequel Tis, and I read the sequel years ago. But I don't remember if that was addressed in the sequel. So I guess I would have to read Tis again to find out. But yes, overall, I really loved this. I'm really glad that I finally reread it after all these years. And I highly recommend it to people that are interested in memoirs, but know that it does deal with dark topics, and that this isn't really one that will necessarily make you happy, though by the end you do feel sort of uplifted, sort of happy for Frank, because the possibilities are kind of there. You're left with this kind of open-endedness of like, you know, what's his next chapter going to be like? And then of course he wrote Tis, which goes into that part, that next phase of his life. But his childhood definitely wasn't exactly happy. But I still just think it's an important read. And if you like memoirs and haven't read Angela's Ashes, you totally should. Totally should. So yeah, I loved this. I'm giving it 5 stars again. It's still one of my favorite memoirs of all time. And I'm really glad I reread it. So I'm glad that you guys came along on the journey with me. If you guys have read this book, let me know down below. Let's talk about it. Let's try to refrain from spoilers if we can. But I would love to chat with you guys about this book if you have read it. So yeah, that is all I have for today, guys. And I hope that you enjoyed this vlog. And yeah, I will talk with you soon. Thank you so much for watching.